head Secretary of Defense from Israel, right, from the puppet state of Israel, came out and said that the number one threat to Israel is the young so-called Black Americans. Think about that, bro. Think about that. Think about that. What did we ever do to these niggas? Nothing. But exist. But the fact that we still exist, you understand, is a threat for them. Meanwhile, Iran is shooting bombs at them. Hamas is kidnapping them. You know what I'm saying? Cutting up their children, doing all this other type of shit. But yet still, we they problem. This is what I'm saying. This is to show you the awakening that they are so afraid that we get. Case in point, we were talking about last. So this is what I'm trying to say with these people with their lies. Everything that they ever told us about anything in the world is untrue. You understand? The only truth that we can gather is that we can gain from ourselves, from our divine intuition, from objective research, from the mouths of the elders that actually lived there, who may not have been able to properly put in context what they were actually living through. You understand? Everything else is a lie or conjecture. So once we accept that, we can understand that this whole thing is really, again, about us, because everything always seems to invest what we are doing. Why? We're not going over to Africa asking them for anything. Are we? Last I heard, Ja Ruler's over there, and Ludacris and these niggas is over there trying to build schools for the Africans. That's dope, right? However, what about all of the niggas you was selling crack to when you was running the Cash Money Click in Hollis? How come you ain't build no school there? Why are you going across the world to build a school for other people, right? When you got niggas still suffering from the drugs, right? And the crack in the form of not just crack rock, but the actual music, where you made it appealable for the impressionable youth to follow you into the prison to school to prison pipeline through the hip hop medium that we know was infiltrated by members of the so-called Mossad, by members of the CIA, by members of the so-called Jesuits, which is really all the same shit, to purposely create a criminalization of our youth and our males. And now they're doing the same thing to the so-called melanated or so-called Black female, who has now basically made it acceptable to be prostitutes. But then at the same time got their hand out talking about how great it is and how independent they are, while at the same time saying that a man's supposed to pay for everything in every facet of their life. And if not, he's not a real man. Think about the hypocrisy of this. And why does this fly? This flies because they know that if they can control the ego of the female, they can control the family. And they've been doing this since the decline of the family in 1945. When they first started coming into the so-called ghetto neighborhoods, the rich, affluent so-called Black neighborhoods that had their own businesses and all of that, and convinced the women to become welfare mothers, with the contingent that they moved the males out of the house. So this, again, is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the enslavement and mental death and power. Our enemy, remember, evil exists in the high places. The shit that we see out here that we're calling evil, that's just a symptom. You understand? The true evil is dictated from the top down. So, again, until they can explain how, if the sun rises from the east, how the other day, on April 1st, the sun obviously rose from the west. But remember, the farthest east you go, you wind up west, right? Which again falls in line with the ancient Aleph and the Tav, which is what this represents, which again is a symbol for us. For us. Everybody else here is just visiting. We're the only people that can't be deported nowhere. They can't send me nowhere back except to Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? Where I was born at. So again, you are from here. You are what they refer to as a modern or an indigenous or whatever you talk about, American, for lack of a better word, Amaraku, right? Or Al-Marak. right? The original so-called Americans. That's us. Nobody can take that title from us. We always been here. But they always want to make us believe that we came from somewhere else. Why? Why? Because once they do that, they get you to identify with their version of history, which then takes you outside of your own quantum field and puts you into them, put you into theirs, which again is a deep problem. Okay? All right, so we address that. So now we get into this. Also, big up to whoever a patent for devices and machines that can simulate an eclipse, that can simulate, right, a solar event, when really it's just another trick. It's just another damn lie that these niggas done created to throw us off of what time and where we really are in the original quantum field. Okay? Not to mention, look, this is actually an old, what they would call old septentrional map, right? And in it, what does it say? America as India Nova, as New India. Think about that, right? And the Magna Carta of Grand Mexico, right? As the universal compendium in redacta, meaning that some of it is taken out, right? Again, see, whenever I start teaching, this nigga want to start talking. So again, this is the issue with these people. Like I said, everything they ever told us about anything and everything is a damn lie. So we got to be careful about what we actually assimilate or assume is true or as true, because most likely it was given to us by somebody working for them. If you want to find the greatest CIA operatives and people like that, all you got to do is look at the all you got to do is look at who's running or what type of what type of technology or whatever is popping. Most likely they have funded it, and a lot of times the people won't even know. They won't even know that they're actually working for these intelligence agencies, because these intelligence agencies right now are working to create a color revolution to get all of us to basically assimilate or come out of this fake simulation that they've created. You know what I mean? One of the biggest things they want us to talk about, again, is the whole Bering Strait and the fact that, we wasn't here, and the Eskimo Indians and these niggas came from all over, right? So look, we already showed and proved not only was the Yakub thing real, that they've already accepted that it's real. They've already co-signed everything that we read about in the 1 to 20s, the 1 to 20, the 1 to 40, right? The student enrollment, all the stuff Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him, was talking about. They already conferred all of that. We already agreed to that. But they still gonna go with the Bering Strait thing to make you seem like the Siberian Indians is the people that was originally from here, right? So watch us bust this shit down and destroy that whole argument. Look at this. Look at this. So right here, you see, they got the multi-lake Baikal, right? Which is where? 24,000 years old, right? And here we have the European and the Asian gene mix. So all of this is Eurasia. All of this is Eurasia or West Asia, going all the way to Africa, so-called with the continent of Africa, right? Now, this is after the Great Flood. So this is why everything is broken up, okay? And then here we are, the Americas start right here when the gene mix, look, genes mixed to form the American group. So what they're saying is that there was nobody here, right? And then what happened was all of these people that were over here decided to cross this thing that they're calling the Bering Strait, right? And then they came over the land bridge, right? And then went to the farthest reaches, and then from there came all the way down here, right? To about 12,600 years ago, when a 3-year-old child founded Montana in 1968, right? So basically saying, so this is all for them to confer that, again, you niggas is not from here, right? You don't have no place here, so you gotta be what we say you are. See, this goes along with the out of Africa theory, right? Watch us bust this whole shit open. Watch. So look, 60,000 years here, right? Then we got 24,000 years. So remember, the Nation of Islam has no birth record. So according to that, it says that we renew our history every 25,000 years, right? Because the actual circumference, to go along with the circumference of the planet, that's actually 24,896 miles. We round it up to 25,000 and then start over. Everybody got that part, right? Everybody understand that part? Okay? Right. So they're saying all of this happened, and then within that, we scale it back to about 6,000, then to 4,000 years old, right? But how is it that your melanin, your own melanin that you are born with is older? Just the gene of the melanin itself is older than anything these Siberian so-called Native Americans is acting like they have over you. How can we explain that? Okay, they can't. So let's go to this. This is where we bust this whole shit out. So you see this, right? So the extent of the ice 13,000 years ago. So basically 13,000 years ago, they was in the ice box. Okay? So what grows in an icebox?
Nothing.
What life grows in an icebox? I thought when shit gets frozen, it freezes, which means that it's inert. It cannot produce because it's what? Frozen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that already shaves off the 13,000 years they talk about, okay? So let's now bring that down to the 24,000 years, all right? We haven't even got to the 60,000 in Africa yet, okay? So 13, 24, 60. Somebody give me the numbers on that. What that add up to? 13, 24, 60. 97. Okay, so let's say these niggas been here for 97,000 years. Let's give them that. Right? Let's give them that. Okay, 9 and 7 is what? Because, you know, we don't never settle on two numbers. We bust the number down to 1. So that's 16, that's 7. Okay? So how long did they say that they came out the icebox? 6,000 years, right? So let's round that up to that 7. So right there, we done busted down to the 6, but we're going to give them an extra 1,000 years, okay? Now watch this. Now this is from their own scientists. This is their own scientists. I showed this before, but I don't think people really understand the relevance of what this means. So we're going to start it again. Look, so let's say we went from the 97,000 years. We just added all of them things together, right? Let's say we give them that. Now they know damn well there was no Siberian people or what they call Inuit or what they call them type of people existed 97,000 years ago. We know that. They know that. Okay? They know that. Peep this. The photomicrograph shows an X chromosome at the left alongside a shrunken Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is passed down exclusively from the father to the son and can serve as an indicator of a male human line diversity. Okay, this is the real diversity inclusion, right? Scientists say in so-called African American, i.e. a Moors, male's odd genetic signature suggests that the human Y chromosome lineage goes back further in time than they thought, perhaps due to what? Interbreeding with other populations such as who? Neanderthals. Didn't we go over what the Neanderthals was last week? These are the cave people. These are what big up to brother Trey. He reminded me that in the Bible they call the troglodytes Horites. So these Horite Neanderthals, right? Neander meaning the river, Neander being the river that they was at, and Thal meaning the valley that surrounded them, right? The whites, the W-I-G-H-T whites, right? So the only way they was able to come out the ice box is somebody had to start the interbreeding with them. Let's, for lack of a better word, let's refer to that as Mr. Yakub, right? This really upsets a lot of ideas, but at the same time, it's understandable if we accept that the human populations were structured in the past so that there were little pockets of what? Diversity, meaning everybody was melanated like us, whether you was in the cold, whether you was in the hot, whatever. You was melanated because we was the diversity. The diversity existed within the genetics of the individuals, and that genetic was heavily influenced by the higher state of etheric energy, the higher state of radiation that we was assimilating, because there wasn't no fossil gases. There wasn't none of this bullshit, climate change shit they talking about today, right? Look, this really upsets a lot of ideas, but at the same time, it's understandable if we accept that human populations were structured in the past so that there were little pockets of diversity, said Michael Hammer, an evolutionary biologist at the University of where? Arizona, who was also one of the authors of a study published in the American Journal of Human Genetics. The study focuses on the analysis of a DNA sample that was obtained from who? An African American living in South Carolina. Interesting. Okay. What does that mean? Well, and submitted to the Genographic Project, a National Geographic, there they go again, National Geographic effort aimed at mapping human origins and migrations. The funny thing about this sample is that it didn't match up with any of the previously known genetic signatures for the Y chromosome, which is passed from who? The father to the son. A team led by Fernando Mendez, like the Mendes goat, a researcher in Hammer's lab, analyzed more than 240,000 DNA base pairs on the African American's Y chromosome and a comparison of the differences between the mystery genetic signature and previously known signatures led to the team to conclude, this is it, they concluded this, which means that it's irrefutable, that the most recent common ancestor for the entire group, that means all of us, that's men that come from fathers, right? With original human females, i.e. melanated females. The entire group lived about what? 338,000 years ago. That's way longer than the 97,000 we just gave these niggas just to be nice, right? That goes further back than the fossil record. So what they telling you, original man, you older than fossils. You are older than any fossil that they have found. The record speaks to 195,000 years or 200,000 years. He said it also goes further back than the previous date for the most common ancestor based on the Y chromosome analysis, which is in the range of 142,000 years ago. Where did they find this man? Did they find this man in Africa? Did they find the man in Europe?
Nope.
Did they find the man in Asia? No. Where they find this nigga at? Found this nigga in South Carolina. How many of y'all got relatives in South Carolina?
Me.
You see how they be lying? So if that's the case, then what is all of this shit? What is all of this you showing me then? What is all it? All of this right here is garbage. None of this is real. None of this shit real. None of it's real. We are older than the Ice Age. When the Ice Age started, 13,000 years ago, we've been here so let's round it up. So really, they basically saying about 500,000 years. Really. 385,000, you might as well say 1,000,000 years. We can't even fathom that. We can't even fathom that. So this out of Africa theory, trash. Trash is fake. It's fake. If anything, we gave them the diversity because the shit started here. So it's really reversed. It really is supposed to go this way. This way. Come on, man. We are older than the Ice Age. So what you're saying is we older than the Ice Age. We older than the fake dinosaurs, which is really dragons, because the word dinosaur didn't come into the human lexicon until 1875. So what was they calling these things prior to 1875? Dragons. So we older than the fossils. We older than the dragons. We older than the Ice Age. But you're going to tell me when I existed, when I came into existence? How? You can't even give me an actual time frame and when this actually happened. But what you can do is check the genetics of somebody who is probably just some, for all you know, this is just some nigga off the street in South Carolina. They found and said, hey, you want to come in and do a study? We give you $20. This more was probably word, okay. Came in and destroyed the entire model for the modern and the postmodern world. And it keep going back. So when we read in the 1 to 20 and all of these other indigenous so-called melanated American texts that all of these other niggas are trying to tell us is fake and all this other stuff, the people that look like us, they want to believe everything the white man say. So they want to believe it's fake. Here go the white man saying, no, the Nation of Islam has no birth record. Dan said they took his DNA while he was in prison for child support. What's sad is that you might be right. You might be right. You understand? That's how crazy it is. The closest relation to the African people that we'll have in that regard is the people in Cameroon. That's the closest. And where's that at? West Africa, right? Closest to us. The researchers followed up their discovery by searching through the genetic database for African populations and turned up 11 men. They only found 11 men from the whole of Africa. They can only find 11 Africans with the DNA that we done had over here before everybody got here. So that's why nobody could tell us that where we from. We from here. We always been here. That's why all these niggas come here. We don't be going all the way over there to them. We different. Yes, the Gullah Geechee, the Seminoles, right? The Creeks. Yes. The Moors, the barbarous nations, the ones in the East. Hammer said, see, it's hammer time. Hammer said there could be two explanations for the previously undefined Y chromosome type. So what this also means is that you got DNA that they can't even qualify. It's unlike anyone else on the planet. They could only find 11 Africans with it. And again, this is the unbroken lineage between the father and the son. So what did they have to do? They had to break up the father and the son. Who did they get to do it? The female. See, they should have never let niggas read again. Because they sealed their fate with it. And the only reason why you have all of this so-called genetic diversity today, people who look Persian, people who look Arab, people who look like that, is because we allow the interbreeding to take place with their genetic Rh recess positive ancestors who were all Neanderthals. There was no Arabs the way that we see Arabs today 385,000 years ago. There was no Italians. There was no Basques. There was no white Britons. There was no Khazarians. None of these people existed. There was none of this. None of this. No Belgium. None of this shit existed. None of these people existed.
Period.
Without us. You understand? That the people who they claim descent from weren't technically even people. These were, again, Neanderthals who had a genetic deficiency, which is why they're not here no more. That the only way that the people who had the Rh positive aspect in them could exist would be by the grace of our genetics. Not the African genetics, but us over here, the lowly blacks, right? The Negro black colors. The same ones that's at the bottom of everything, right? The same one that said, oh, you ain't got no culture. Ain't got no culture. Nigga, if it wasn't for me, you'd still be born with tails. And some of you are. Still, to this day. This ain't racism. This ain't hate. This is genetic history. Don't blame me. Blame National Geographics. I didn't write this study. You know what I'm saying? I'm just bringing it to light. The results are more consistent with the introgression of an odd lineage. Look up the word introgression. Somebody look up the word introgression. Look, the results are more consistent with the introgression of an odd lineage. And that's an interesting way to put it. Hammer told NBC News. The news know this. You can say what it is, but to let the white man say it, these Negroes don't accept it. You know what I'm saying? So somebody look it up and post it in the chat and I'll read it. Over the past few years, scientists have been coming around. Look, they're coming around to the view that such interbreeding did take place early in the history of our species. See, when they say our species, they talking about the Rh positive niggas. They talking about the Neanderthal ones. They're not talking about us. Our species was here before that. In the recent analysis of who? The Neanderthals and the Denisovians. Okay, introgression. Now, the entry or introduction of a gene from one gene complex into another. As what? As by what? Hybridization. Which is what? Amalgamation. Which is what? Hybrid breeding. Which is what? Grafting. There's a chemical that they got to give original women to when you have a baby with a white man or vice versa, they got to give the white, whoever's the Caucasoid, whoever's the so-called WIGHT person, they got to give them an enzyme to keep your genetics from destroying the seed. Okay, look up, somebody look up Denisovian. Chinese people believe that they all descend from the Yellow Emperor, who was an alien. That's how they say that the Chinese became so-called yellow. Not being racist or disrespectful, but or to call people of color, but that's what they saying. They believe that they all come descended from the yellow emperor who came from the sky, and that's what changed the complexion of their people from them looking like us to how they look now. So they say, oh, well, they might say, oh, well, how does that thing? That's not y'all today. Yes, it is. If you came from a black, so-called melanated Moor from South Carolina. Ain't South Carolina the place where they came with the Sundry Free Moors at? Isn't that where that's from?
Yep.
Yes, it is. Yes. Look. The DNA has indicated that part of their genetic heritage survives in modern day humans. So that's me and you. Denisovian, look. Denisovians, member of a group of archaic humans who emerged about what? 370,000 years ago during the when? The play, let me read it right. The Pleistocene epoch in Eurasia, spreading throughout the eastern and southern Asia, parts of Melanesia, before disappearing sometime around when? 30,000 years ago. Let's go back to the map. That's here. That's the Ice Age. See? See? We older than all these people. We've been here for so long, we don't even remember. We don't forgot. See? The group is known from a handful of fossil finger bones, molars, and partial mandibles and other bone fragments found in 7 caves in Russia. See? These is the grafted ones. See? Because remember, we older than the fossil record, so it can't be us. This is just another form. This was the form that came after the Neanderthal. This was the bridge. This was the missing link people that gave birth to the people that today that we know as these hominids. She said one of the biggest debates in the study of human genetics has to do with how to match mutation rates with time scales. See that? We can't be the mutants because we're the base genetics. Everybody else is mutants. That's why they hate us. You understand? Because we're the ones that technically is the only ones who can survive on this planet. These niggas can't survive without us. That's why I said last week, drop the nuke, man. Do it. Watch what happens. Watch what we become after that. Y'all niggas gonna be out of here. That's just going to turn us into some whole other shit. Because we're the only ones with the genetic record to be able to transmute it. Do you know from the time that you was born as a melanated male or female from this side of the world that's born here, let's say you had a genetic history where all your peoples is from the same peoples, right? Do you know that from the time you was born to right now, that you have assimilated the equivalent of 200 nuclear bombs, the amount of solar radiation your melanin has assimilated from that point to now? Do you know that? Why you think AIDS ain't kill you? Why you think crack ain't kill you? Why you think COVID ain't kill you? Why you think cancer ain't killing you?